Our scripture readings this morning are not from today's Revised Common Lectionary, which we usually follow here at Douglas UCC. I substituted them with these readings because I felt they were appropriate and hopefully helpful to us as we continue to process and make sense of the tragedy that happened last Sunday morning. When we were gathered here last Sunday morning, we had just heard the news of what happened in Orlando. But as the days progressed and we heard more and more, we began to feel fear and anger and confusion and frustration. And so, the readings today hopefully will help us to process all of those emotions. The gospel reading, of course, is one of Jesus' most famous teachings. It's the Beatitudes. And I like to say they're the attitudes to be. And what Jesus was teaching, and it's important for us to remember this week, is blessed are those who mourn. We will be comforted. Blessed are those who seek justice. We will be satisfied. And blessed are those of us who seek peace, for we also will be blessed. That sometimes is difficult for us to remember when we are in a time of darkness, but that is the truth. The first reading, which Sue read for us from the Old Testament, comes from the book of Genesis. Many of you know that's the first book of the Bible, and this story comes right after the creation story. God's just created the whole world, and then it says the next thing God created was a covenant. A covenant is a pact, a promise, a connection. And God said, "You will know the sign of my connection with you when you look up in the sky and see a rainbow." Many of you know that a rainbow is something that all of us look at with great joy. I don't know about you, but whenever I see a rainbow, I want to take out my camera and capture a picture of it. It makes us happy. There's something magical about it. When I see a rainbow, it reminds me of God's promise and pact and connection with me. And when I see a double rainbow, I am doubly blessed. And what I think of is I not only think of my connection with God, I think of my connection with my gay ancestors, the men and women who lived in the darkness so that I could walk in the light. Many of you know that the rainbow is the symbol of gay pride. And we know that Douglas UCC has flown the rainbow flag out front for many, many years now. And we are proud of that. The rainbow that you see above our heads, the fabric here, is historic. These ribbons were carried down the streets of New York for the 25th anniversary of the Stonewall riots. Now, if you heard my talk on Thursday, I mentioned that in 1969, in New York City, at the Stonewall Inn, a gay bar, a group of gay people had had enough. At that time, gay bars were routinely raided by the police, and the patrons were dragged off to jail, and they had their names published in the newspaper, so to shame them. We celebrate Gay Pride in June because it was on a June day that group of gay people at the Stonewall Inn said, "No more. We are not going to take this anymore. We are not going to live in shame. We're not going to live in fear. We're not going to live in the darkness. We're going to take back our power, and we're going to do something about this." And so the Stonewall riots are considered the birth of the gay rights movement. Well, on the 25th anniversary of the Stonewall riots, the world's largest and longest gay pride flag was carried up and down the streets of New York City. That flag was 1 mile long and 30 feet wide, and it took thousands of people to carry it. And two of the people who carried it were two people who became new members of our church today, Greg Plow and Steve Devick. And each of them was given a piece of that historic flag, and they have gifted it to our church. I'm so grateful that we will be able to have this every June hanging in our church as our reminder of our connection to God, that rainbow connection that He promised us, and also our connection and our covenant with the gay community. Now, this week will be the 1-year anniversary of the Supreme Court's decision to make marriage equality the law of the land. And right after that happened, people said, I wonder if we even need gay pride celebrations anymore. Well, as we saw from the tragedy last Sunday, not only do we need gay pride celebrations still, but that they are imperative right now in this time. Douglas UCC was one of the first churches in the entire United States to declare itself an open and affirming church. And what that means is that we are a church that is fully inclusive of the LGBTQ community in the church's life and ministry. We did that over 25 years ago. Today, there are still churches that are struggling with this issue. We were pioneers, and those of you who were here 25 years ago, we are grateful. The pastor of the UCC church in Hudsonville, which is less than 30 miles from here, asked for our congregation's prayers for their congregation, because right now they are discussing becoming an open and affirming church, and not everyone is on board, even though it's a UCC church, and even though it's 2016. We in Saugatuck Douglas, we live in a bubble. And sometimes we forget when we leave that bubble that there are still people trying to make sense of what it means to be gay and Christian. They're still trying to figure it out. Now, if this is your first time here today at Douglas UCC, and maybe you came because you heard the speech that I gave on Thursday at the vigil, I don't want you to think that all we do here is talk about gay issues. I think that's really important to say. Because I am a gay pastor, and we have a very large LGBTQ community here at Douglas UCC, we are not a gay church. I've been the pastor here for a little over 2 years. All of my talks are recorded and online, and you will see that only a handful of them are devoted to gay issues. We saw today 17 people join our church. In the 2 years since I've been pastor, that total is now 93 new people have joined our church. And the overwhelming majority of them are heterosexual. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Most churches today say something that we said 25 years ago, that all are welcome. drive around Saugatuck, Douglas, Svenville, and Holland, and you'll see on a lot of churches, on their signage, it says something like, all are welcome, come as you are, everyone's welcome. But when you go, ask if a transgender person can be baptized in that church. Ask if a lesbian couple can be married in that church. Ask if a woman can be ordained in that church. And ask if a person who doesn't take the Bible literally can become a member of that church. And then you will see how welcoming they are. To say all are welcome means all are welcome. I loved how on Memorial Day I asked the veterans to stand here, and if you noticed who was standing, it was men, women, gay, straight, and transgender. And today, those 17 people up here were men, women, gay, straight, and transgender. That's what we mean by all are welcome. A welcome means a celebration. I don't want people to talk about being tolerated. I heard this online the other day, and I thought it was great. It said, worship where you're celebrated, not tolerated. And I love that. We hear a lot about tolerance, but I don't know about you. I don't want to be tolerated. Tolerated means I have to put up with this. I have to tolerate it. I don't want to be tolerated. I want to be celebrated. That's why we gather together here every Sunday to worship. Worship means celebrate God, celebrate each other, and celebrate yourself. That's what we're doing here every week. Gay people have a special gift for all of us to learn from. It doesn't make them better than other people. It's just a special gift. That special gift is when you come out of the closet, out of the darkness, and you step into the light, into the authenticity of yourself, into being everything God created you to be, you become the light. We grew up in church hearing that gay people were so far removed from God, but the secret was that gay people were an expression of God. Everyone in this room, whether you're straight, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or questioning, all of us still have parts of ourselves that are in the closet. We still keep parts of ourselves hidden away in the darkness. And Jesus in the Beatitudes said, don't hide your light under a bowl. Put it on a stand so that everyone can see your light. Gay people do that when they come out, and they are, for us, all of us, a way to say, yes, I want the fullness of myself to be out in the world. I want to be a light. So many people have said this week, I feel like I'm in such darkness. Well, in this time of darkness, we are being called to be the light. All of us. That's how we go and change the world. I'd like to end with these words that I've shared with you before, but I just think that they are so appropriate for today. These are the words of the spiritual writer Marianne Williamson. Our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light and not our darkness that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. You are the light of the world. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people will not feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us. It's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give others permission to do the same. So you, my friends, are powerful beyond measure. This light is within you. When you see someone shining their light so brightly, whether they're gay or straight, it gives us permission to shine our lights brighter. And so that's what I want to call all of us to do on this Pride Sunday and during this week that has been so painful for us, is to remember that we do have the power to effect change. And we do that by letting out more and more of the God light that is within us. Namaste.